Yesterday, I shared a video about a teacher in Sacramento, California, who went on an unhinged rant on Facebook targeting parents who just wanted schools to open back up for in-person learning again, calling them white supremacists. Now, this happens all the time with the woke. They use these terms. They throw out Nazi, racist, white supremacists, phobe this, phobe that, phobe the other thing, in an effort to get you to back down. And I use that story to implore you to start speaking up and pushing back against these woke bullies that use this tactic time and time and time and time again to try to get people that they disagree with to stop confronting them. Well, if the bully wants you to stop confronting them, if the bully's only goal is to get you to shut the hell up, then the only choice that you have to defeat the bully is to continue speaking the truth. And I'm covering this story today to show you that I am not the only one saying this. I'm not. I'm not being dramatic. I'm not making things up. I'm not pulling this out of thin air. I know it's uncomfortable to speak up and push back when you're fighting these absolute crazy people. I know that for many of you, confrontation makes you want to dive under the table and hide. But you have a choice. You have a choice to either continue to keep your mouth shut and say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for having the opinions that I do." You can make that choice. But if you do that, all you're showing me and everyone else that's paying attention is that you care more about protecting to be quite frank, like fragile sensibilities than you do about defeating this problem. We are now at an inflection point. I truly believe this. We are at an inflection point in our culture. Do we want to go down this road and allow critical race theory to take over everything? Or do we want to try to stop it one more time emphatically in its tracks? And I truly believe that we don't have long to do this. I have watched this escalate over the last 2 years. I spend all of my days at this point looking at curriculums in schools, looking at what's going on in organizations. It's getting worse and worse and worse every single day. And I truly don't believe we have that much longer left to be able to be in a position to beat this menace back with a stick. And the only way that we're going to be able to regain control is if people start speaking up. If you have been waiting for the last possible moment, congratulations, your time has come. And now you're going to show everyone what do you really care about? What are your values? Do you want your kids to be indoctrinated in school or in college or in their workplace or anywhere else? What is more important to you? Keeping quiet and keeping everything nice and calm and not being called a racist by crazy school teachers who are going to come after you anyway, by the way. That you may hold them off a little bit. They're going to come after you anyway. Is it more important for you to keep quiet, or is it more important for you to protect your kids and yourself from this insanity? Make a choice. And if protecting yourself and your kids from this is more important, then you got to start speaking up. You've got to start saying what you think. And if you don't, the only person that you can fault is that person that you see in the mirror absolutely every single day. I know you're scared of losing your job. I know you're scared of losing your friends. I know you're scared of losing your family. But don't pretend this is important to you if you aren't willing to help, if you aren't willing to speak up. And speaking up could be, frankly, you know what? Do it anonymously. Forward me documentation I can use to, reach out to other people who are talking about this stuff. At least fight back in that way if you're not ready to speak up yet. But you have to do something, and you have to start fighting back, and you have to start saying enough is enough. And frankly, if you're in a position to speak out and you're not, then what the hell are you waiting for? One of the reasons I speak out about this stuff is because I can. I'm self-employed. I can do what I want. I don't have a boss I have to answer to. Have I lost clients over it? Sure. But I'm still here. I'm doing just fine. And that's true of most people. Well, here's a story from the New York Post that I want to talk about today, because again, it proves this point. How to beat the woke, never apologize, rally friends, and punch back harder. This is from Glenn H. Reynolds. Let's see what he has to say. Americans hate woke culture. As I noted in these pages not too long ago, what Glenn is referring to there is this poll that he cited in a previous article that says, woke tyrants ride high even so. According to a Cato/YouGov poll, 62% of Americans self-censor their political expression. 62% of Americans are self-censoring themselves. That means that you are in the majority. Black, white, Republican, and Democrat, a large majority of Americans oppose it. Even people like former President Barack Obama, Bill Maher, and ultra-liberal comedian Sarah Silverman hate it. Maher calls it Stalinist. But it keeps going. Why is that? And what can you do about it, especially if you or someone you are close to comes under attack? In short, it keeps going because it's easy and fun, and you have to make it less so. This is exactly correct. This is exactly correct. What this ideology does is it makes it like a group sport to team up and mob people, to go after people, to call each other out. It's a way that they build camaraderie. It's a way that they build community. It's the activities that they literally do together. It's too fun. When I watch the videos from Evergreen State College, and Benjamin Boyce's videos are really the best ones, I believe, to watch, I see kids that had basically formed a social club. This was how they made friends. This was how they found common ground with each other. And they're doing it because they can. It's like, ooh, let's see what we can get away with next. Once they stop getting away with it, they stop doing it. It's not really that hard. And the other thing I want to point out is this. This is not a left or right issue. I know that many people who watch this channel do not consider themselves to be conservatives, are not Republicans. Many of you, maybe not many, but, you know, a good handful. I know you're still Democrats. You're still on the left. Maybe you agree with the left on many, many, many things, but the woke stuff just makes you uncomfortable. Well, guess what? It's going to come for you too. This should not be a left or right issue. This is an American issue. And if you're on the left and you're not speaking up because you think you're going to get kicked out of the club, well, guess what? You're not really in the club to begin with. And I promise you, it's going to gnaw at you and gnaw at you and gnaw at you until you finally say something. That's what happened with me. I've been down this road. I know how it felt to watch people get bullied, to watch people get mobbed, to watch businesses be destroyed, to see article after article coming up. I even remember what it was like when I first learned about the incidents at Yale, where the students were rebelling against the teachers. I was working in a higher ed consulting firm at the time, and we were all shocked by it. We were like, what is going on? This is not correct. This isn't a left or right issue. And you're not going to escape this by keeping quiet. Lesson 1. Don't panic. And don't give in. Ian Pryor of Loudoun County, Virginia publishes the Daily Malarkey, an internet humor site that goes after what he calls the Chardonnay Antifa. As he recently recounted to Fox News, after he published an op-ed attacking political correctness, he found himself on the sharp end of woke attacks led by a group of teachers, administrators, and woke citizens. According to news reports, the Loudoun Stalinists put together a list of people opposing their policies and plans to hack them and expose them and infiltrate them. Did Pryor chicken out? No. He called them out. He mocked them. He made sure the whole thing got as much attention as possible. Now there's a criminal investigation into the group. The publicity not only generated blowback against people who targeted him, it also brought him in lots of new subscribers for the Daily Malarkey. Win. Learn from this. Never apologize. Don't act afraid, and to borrow a phrase from Obama, punch back twice as hard. Call the mob out for what it is, a bunch of bad people trying to pretend they stand for something moral. Going after people for their political views. This way isn't an act of morality. It's an attempt at political terrorism, and it's un-American. Listen, I know I've been working with a lot of politicians lately. And one of the things that drives me crazy about politicians is they're like, when you reach out to your elected representatives, you should be very nice and cordial. And I'm like, You know what? I don't agree. I don't agree. They're like, you are going to get more with honey than you are with vinegar. And I'm like, I don't agree. I don't agree. You want to know why? The politicians haven't been doing their goddamn jobs, and they should be held accountable. The fact that the politicians haven't done their jobs to this point until they have been backed into a corner, we should be angry. We should be angry. They're supposed to be representing us. And they should know that there are consequences for not doing so, Chris Sununu. I don't believe in this philosophy of like, you have to play nice in order to win. Well, guess what? People have been playing nice for years and years and years and years and years, and it hasn't worked. And you know what I particularly cannot stand is the intellectuals, the anti-woke intellectuals who are like, oh, we can intellectualize our way out of this problem. Intellectuals created this problem in the damn first place. It came from the intellectuals. Having conversations about philosophy is not going to change what kids are learning in schools. It's not going to change what's being taught in organizations. It's not going to change any of it. So why? Listen, I get that there's a time and a place for intellectual dark web nonsense. But this dude, like, when you're fighting a war, you don't sit back and form a book club to talk about winning the war. You go out and you fight the damn battles. And you play by the rules that your enemies are playing by. You don't play by these highfalutin, oh, we must notify them of this and that and the other thing, and they just must not understand. We are losing because we are not playing by the enemy's rules. And that is why they're running the damn table. The second lesson, stick together. The woke mob tries to isolate its victims and to make others afraid to stand up to them. Instead, it's important to ask for help from friends and potential supporters. If you're a target, and to offer it to targets if they're on the sidelines. Solidarity. That's what's going on at the University of San Diego Law School, whose dean shamefully capitulated to an absurd student campaign against a professor who did nothing wrong. In a post on his personal blog, Professor Thomas Smith said that those who dismissed the possibility that the Wuhan coronavirus escaped from a lab, there were swallowing whole a set of Chinese. And here he used a scatological phrase meaning, in effect, boulder dash. He was, of course, referring to the Chinese regime's denials, which are facing growing scientific skepticism. Asian students complained preposterously that this was somehow a racial slur against Chinese people rather than a criticism of a brutal communist regime. Rather than telling them that, as law students, they needed to work on their reading skills, Dean Robert Shapiro issued a craven response suggesting that there was some basis to the complaints. In an email to the law school community, he charged Smith with bias and with using offensive language and announced an investigation. If I was that professor, I would have quit immediately. I would have walked out and said, screw you. Obviously, you don't have my back, and we are not even existing in the realm of common sense. And I would have done this in the most public possible way that I could have. Because there are greater priorities right now. But here's where the story changes. Some of the most eminent faculty members at the law school, including big names such as Larry Alexander and other names I'm not going to pronounce correctly, fired back at Shapiro. They wrote, "We are concerned that treating these complaints the way you are doing validates student reactions and strained interpretations that are misguided, that reflect a lack of critical thinking, and that will chill faculty members' teaching and scholarship." Then outside groups got involved, including various organizations that fight for free inquiry and free speech on campus. They included the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, which sues universities over such things. FIRE demanded that the university immediately cease its investigation of Smith. It's a bad week for Dean Shapiro. And lesson 3. University and corporate bosses give into the woke because it's painless and easier than fighting them. Make it painful and difficult instead, and they'll change their ways. Take this to heart. The sane can win. Well, I'm going to push back on Glenn just a little bit. I don't think they've achieved anything with that. I don't think they have. You're ending an investigation? So what? Is the dean going to do the same thing over and over and over again until there are actual consequences other than a sternly worded flipping letter? Of course they will. Of course they will. We've got to start standing up, and we've got to start being more aggressive. And we have to play by their rules, and I know it's uncomfortable for a lot of you. I get it. But this is, like, when the going gets tough, man. What do you care about more? Maintaining a false sense of security by keeping your mouth shut because they're going to come for you anyway? Or having a hand in fighting back against one of the most pronounced threats that this country has experienced in a long time? If you can look yourself in the mirror saying, I did nothing and I'm completely okay with that because I was intellectualizing on Twitter. I guess congrats, man, but I can't look in the mirror and tell that to myself. I can't. I can intellectualize with the best of them. Now is not the time for intellectualizing. Now is the time to get in the dirt and to fight back. And if that involves throwing some mud, you know what? They set the rules for this game. We cannot pretend that fighting the battle up here is going to win the battle that is taking place on the goddamn ground. You know, one of the reasons that I pursued the type of psychology that I did, it was because I'm much more interested in how things manifest in the real world rather than sitting back in the ivory tower in academia and talking about how things might be if the ideal was possible, because the ideal doesn't happen in the real world. It never works out the way that the studies tell you it's going to work out. It never works out in the best possible way, and you shouldn't expect it to. It is not an ideal scenario that we need to play their game in order to fight back, but it is a reality. It is the reality that we're dealing with. So, do you want to win? That's the question you have to answer, and if you want to win, then it's time to start adjusting our tactics, folks, because there are not enough people fighting back in the way that this thing needs to be fought. That's all I've got for right now. I'll see you soon.